Alright, in today's video we're going to do something a little bit different. Instead of messing with Blender, I'm going to show you how to make a digital copy of your Blu-rays and DVDs. That way you can play them on the computer without actually having the disc in the computer. Now keep in mind, this is my disclaimer. This is not meant to teach you how to pirate DVDs and Blu-rays. If you try to make copies of discs you don't own and you don't keep, then that would be considered pirating, and it's considered illegal. So I'm not teaching how to do that. Alright, now when it comes to making a digital copy of your Blu-ray or DVD, you're going to need two different things. You're going to need something like this, which is a program used to decrypt the information that's on a disc. Now, movies are encrypted when they're on a disc, and this right here will actually decrypt it. And then once it's decrypted and you have an unencrypted copy, you're generally going to want to use something like HandBrake in order to re-encode the video to make it smaller. Otherwise, the amount of space that the large collection would take up would be huge. And give you an example, this is the collection I have. I have all my TV shows. Of course, my drive it's a hard drive. Actually, a collection of hard drives. Actually, it's a RAID array. And of course it's taking a while to start up because that's what hard drives do. Alright, now these are all the TV shows I have. Not a huge number, 94 different TV series, a lot of old ones. And here are the movies that I have. Now when you're talking about a database this size, you definitely want to re-encode, because you're talking over 20 terabytes just for what you see here, and that's with it re-encoded. So if you have a large amount, you definitely got to re-encode it, because if I didn't re-encode these would be anywhere probably in the ballpark of 200 to 250 terabytes, I would imagine, counting the TV shows. Alright, now let me go ahead and get started and show you how to go about doing this. Like I said, you will need a program like this. This is the one I recommend. It's the one I use. Go ahead and download it. The link to this will be in the description of the video, and HandBrake. Link to that will also be in the description of this video. Now let's go ahead and get started. I'm assuming at this point you have it installed, those two programs installed. If you don't, go ahead and install them, press pause, install them, and come back. Alright, now first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and open up MakeMKV, which is my decrypter. Normally this box will not show up. In my case, I have two optical drives, so it does show up. Now I'm going to go ahead and put a disc in it, and I'm going to just use DVD instead of a Blu-ray, just because DVDs are a little bit quicker, and just for time's sake I figured the process is identical, so it really doesn't matter. Let's save a little bit of time. Now I'm going to select the drive that I just put that disc in, and you can see it loading. It's loaded. Now all I have to do is just click that, and now we'll go through and read the disc and determine how it's built, how the structure is laid out. And that's the first step to decoding it, or decrypting it rather. Alright, Now, right here is where you're going to set an output. I'm just going to use the same output I've been using for a long time, which this outputs it to a solid state drive, which all of this process works much better if you're using solid state drives, which pretty much everybody is now. Now, all these chapters, or not chapters, all these titles over here, you don't need every one of them. The only one you need is generally going to be the biggest one. Now, when it comes to Blu-rays, you'll sometimes have like special edition versions versus theatrical versions, maybe on the same disc, and then you'll just pick whichever one you want. But generally, whenever you click on it, it tells you how long it is and so forth, and that will help you determine which one's which. In this case, it's obvious. This is the one we want. The rest of them we don't, unless we want the special features and all that nonsense. But generally speaking, I don't care about the special features. I just want the movie. Now, the title of this file is going to be title_T00.MKV. It's actually a movie by the name of Black Snake Moan, but sometimes it has a generic title or a generic name, which is fine because you can always rename it. So I have this one selected, I have my output selected, and all I have to do is just click that button to start the process. And right now it's going through and reading the information on the disk that make up the movie file itself, and it's decrypting it as it's transferring it to your computer. And with DVDs, they're fairly slow in terms of the read speed, but DVDs are much smaller than Blu-rays also. Figure it's only reading at about 6 megabytes a second, which is about normal. So it's going to take in the ballpark of 15 minutes to transfer the data. Now if I go over here to where this is outputting, you can see it right here. Let me go ahead and change the size of this. And you can see right here, this file is getting bigger and bigger as it's creating it. Now I'm going to go ahead and fast forward through the rest of this. Alright, it's got about a minute and a half left for this to finish, and I just wanted to go ahead and break in and explain something that you see over here. Now, often you will see stuff like this where it says so and so is corrupt or invalid, offset, attempting to work around. Now, this does not mean that there's anything wrong with your disk. What that actually means, as far as I can understand, is back in the early 2000s when DVDs were first becoming a thing, one of the things that they did to try to confuse decryptors in order to prevent people from pirating DVDs was to put false information in the header of the disc. That way it would get stuck in a redundant loop. And this right here is basically, as far as I can tell, it's detecting one of those features. And eventually it figures out what it actually is, and then it just moves on. So don't freak out if you see that. It doesn't mean there's anything corrupt about your disk. It's just part of the anti-piracy features that are on a disk. Alright, we got about 14 or 15 seconds left. And then it will be finished. Alright, there we go. I'm going to go ahead and just downsize this, and over here this is the video file. I'm going to go ahead and rename it. Let me see what year that movie is from. I don't actually remember. IMDb. Alright, let me search for that movie. Black Snake Moan 2006. Alright, because I always name these exactly how it is on IMDb, because it makes the scrapers that are used to gather information, like for the Raspberry Pi, for movie databases and stuff like that, simpler. It makes it easier to find the information on it. So I'm just going to call this Black Snake Moan, and then putting the year like that. That's the pattern that I recommend because it works well with scrapers. And let me verify that the file actually works. Popped up over here, turn the volume all the way down so copyright or YouTube people don't get me. Alright, so you can see it actually worked. Alright, now, but you can see that it's 5.1 gigabytes for one movie, and that's a DVD. Now, if you had unlimited disk space, I would just keep it as is, because your computer will play MKVs just fine. Raspberry Pi will play MKVs just fine, but that size adds up very quick. So you do need something like HandBrake. Alright. So all you do is just, like, whenever you first open up HandBrake, you're going to see this. Now, I have the dark theme on. It defaults to the light theme, but it looks essentially the same, just darker. Alright, all you do is just drag this over. But if for some reason you see like one of these and not the overlay like that, all you have to do is just click open, and then you can either drag and drop, or you can search for the file directly, which is also comes in handy. Alright, now I have some presets in here, but I'm going to ignore the presets because here are presets that I use, and these up here are custom ones, but I'm just going to go through and kind of explain these presets. Now, I'll always have an output in MPEG-4. You can have an output in MKV or WebDM, or WebM, but I always use MPEG-4. It's the most compatible. And I always check web optimized and align audio video at start. And I've never had any issues. So, alright, if you come over here to dimensions, for the most part you do not have to mess with this, because this seems kind of complicated. But for the most part, all these settings will adjust automatically. Because if I was to go here, but let me reopen up this movie and click pause. Now, the actual video frame, because it came off of a DVD and it's based on 16:9 ratio, you actually have these black bars at the top and at the bottom, even though it's ultra wide. The actual video is ultra wide, but you got the black bars. This right here will automatically strip out the black bars and leave only the source part, if that makes any sense. You don't have to change anything, just the default settings work fine. And in my opinion, that's how I'm going to keep it. Come over here to filter. If it's an old DVD, you may need to put this on, change it, set to the interlace detection to default, and then where it says deinterlace, change it to decomb. and that's one of those old DVDs where it's was recorded with interlaced frames. For the most part, new movies you don't have to worry about, and I think this is the default setting anyway. You can keep it on, it doesn't hurt it if it's on, but this will get rid of the interlace, because digital video or video that was converted to digital video and it has interlacing, it looks like garbage on a computer if this isn't turned on to get rid of it. But you can leave it on because it doesn't hurt it. It doesn't affect it if it doesn't need it. Generally speaking, I keep it off just because I'm kind of weird. But you can keep it on. I think it's on by default and it works just fine. Now this right here is the biggest part that you need to pay attention to. If you do not have a fast CPU, you probably do not want to use H.265. H.265 is a more efficient compression codec than H.264, but it will also take much longer to encode. And basically, with my Ryzen 3900X, which is 12 core, 24 thread, I use H.265 in most cases, and it's still a little bit slow. It can still take 15 to 20 minutes to encode a DVD. But in this case, I'm just going to use H.264 because I believe most people probably have a CPU that's more suited for H.264. And as far as frame rate, always keep this to same as source. If you change this to a different number, your output file is going to look like garbage. So keep that on same as source. Now, you can keep this on constant frame rate or variable frame rate. It really won't make much of a difference, but I generally just keep it on constant frame rate. Alright, now this right here is your overall quality. If you bring it to the left, the quality gets bad. It compresses the video more and the output size is smaller, but the quality is lower. You put it all the way over to the right, the output size is exponentially large or very large because it's lossless. There's no compression, and the quality is basically just like it is on the disc. But realistically, for DVDs, I recommend between 18 and 16. Realistically, you can go up to 20, but for the most part, I prefer 18. That seems to be right around the sweet spot. The output file is going to be generally 1/3 to 1/4 the size of this, and the quality is going to be indistinguishable. Alright, now on Blu-rays, I usually keep this on 20. 20 for Blu-rays and 18 for DVDs. And those seem like the sweet spot. Alright, now this right here, I recommend keeping it on either fast or medium. This right here is a trade-off of how much time it will spend trying to make the compression more efficient versus how fast it wants to actually encode it. Typically speaking, if you turn it all the way over here to ultra fast, the file size will be a little bit larger. The quality is going to be, regardless of where you put this, the quality is going to be the same. But if you put it on ultra fast, it will basically use up more disk space and spend less time making the compression more efficient, just to make the whole entire process quicker. And if you put it on very slow or placebo, it means it will spend a long time trying to figure out every possible way it can compress the video without losing quality. You put it on placebo, you're going to wait, and you're going to wait, and you're going to wait some more. And then when you finally get done waiting, you're going to be maybe 10% done. That's it. So, generally speaking, medium or fast. That seems to be the sweet spot in my opinion. Alright. Now, encoder tune, if it's basically you, for the most part, if it's a very grainy video, you set it to grain. If it's like a still image, set it to still image. But for the most part, there's two options that you use. If it's an animated film with a lot of basically if it's animated completely, all CGI, then go ahead and put this on animation. If it was basically film, shot on film, leave it on film. Or you can just leave it to none. The differences are extremely subtle. I would venture to say 99.9% of the people could not tell the difference. So, for the most part, leave it to none. Encoder profile, leave it to auto unless you understand the settings completely. I don't understand the settings completely, and I've never had any issues with it just leaving it set to auto. And that's pretty much it for the video settings. Now there's one more that's very important, and this is your audio. Now when it comes to MKV files, it comes off of a disk. You have sometimes, like in this case, you have French and you have English. Now you have French, which is in 2-channel stereo, and you have English in 2-channel stereo. But you don't want either one of those unless you speak French. But if you speak English, your choice is English 5.1 surround sound or stereo. And of course, we're going to go with the surround sound, and it will default to that. But double check this every time to make sure it's in the language that you want, because MKVs can have multiple audio tracks, where in MPEG-4s, generally, as far as I understand, they only have one audio track. And then right here, it's best to put it on pass-through, whichever one says pass-through, because basically all that's doing, it's basically not re-encoding the audio, it's just copying the same audio stream into the new file so that the audio is not degraded in any way whatsoever. So make sure you choose whichever one says pass through. Alright, now subtitles. The default, in my opinion, of how it's set up is perfect. And what the default does, it looks like right here it says foreign audio scan. It looks for any audio or any words, any spoken language in the video that's in a language other than what you have set here. So suppose somebody in this video speaks French, but everything else is in English. It will take the subtitle information that's in the video stream, and it will burn that text into that section of video so that you can actually read what that person in French is saying. But it only does it for that section where they're talking French or talking whatever other language other than this language that's set here. Hope that makes sense. These settings work fine, leave them the same. There's really nothing to do here. This is just shows you the chapters and the times, but you can't really edit them other than remove them. I'd just leave them in there. Alright, and at this point we're ready to encode. We set an output location which I'm going to set the output location to, where am I at? To the same location as the input, because the input file is .mkv and the output file is .mpeg4. So you can have it the same location. And at this point, all you need to do is click add to queue. And now you can go into queue and you can see this file or this encode is in queue. And you can add multiple files to this and have it do a whole bunch of them while you're away from your computer, which is generally what I do. Or if you just have the one, you can just click start. And right now it went through and read all the subtitles and figure out if there was any, the first pass it went through and read all the subtitles and figured out if there was any foreign audio or foreign spoken language. That way it could know where it needed to actually add the English subtitles for that language. And right now it's going through and actually doing the encoding. And you can see it's encoding at about 500 frames per second. And that's set to medium speed. Or it's actually set to fast. I thought I had it set to medium, which is fine. And if I was to open up Task Manager, you can see that for some reason HandBrake often does not want to use all of the CPU. Not sure why. And you can see that it's actually using the GPU also. Of course, I believe it's using the GPU for decoding the video. I'm not 100% sure. But realistically, I have not seen much difference at all, regardless of what GPU you have in your system. It doesn't make this any quicker unless you're actually using one of the NVENC encoders like this one or this one. Now these are much quicker, generally speaking, with the, if you use the GPU to do the encoding, but the quality is nowhere near as good. CPUs are just far more versatile when it comes to actually create or encoding video. I would not recommend using a GPU to encode video, except from like a screen capture thing, which right here I am using the GPU to encode this video, but that's because it takes, you know, like 1% of the GPU power to actually encode or to screen capture. Alright, about 50% done. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward through the rest of this. Alright, it's almost finished. Got about 4% more to do, then it'll be finished. Alright, there we go. Now you can see the difference in the size. It dropped from 5.1 gigabytes down to 1.3. So you're talking about about 25% of the disk space is all it's actually going to use compared to the original that's on the disk. Alright, now let me open this up and turn the volume down. And as you can see, the black bars at the top and bottom are gone. You can basically scroll through, and I'm going to pause right there, open this one up. And what spot am I? About right here. No, I'm right here. So you can see the difference in quality, if there is a difference. I can't tell the difference, but I'm old. My eyes don't work. So you're basically saving a lot of disk space by using HandBrake. But that's essentially all you got to do, and then you can, transfer this file to your phone if you're traveling, or to your laptop if you're going on vacation, or whatever. But anyway, if you have any questions about how to go about this, just in case I didn't explain something very well, let me know and I will try to explain it to you. And again, I'm going to leave the link to download HandBrake and MakeMKV in the description of this video. And I guess that's it. Later, people.